Your identity is the operating system for your entire life. Every action you take, every opportunity you pursue or avoid, every relationship you build or neglect, all of it comes from a single blueprint, your self-image. This inner map doesn't just influence your decisions, it decides them ahead of time, often without you even realizing it. What you believe about yourself silently shapes your entire reality, and until you understand this process, real change remains out of reach. Your self-image wasn't something you chose. It was programmed through thousands of moments, often during your most vulnerable childhood years. Every time you were praised or criticized, succeeded or failed, felt accepted or rejected, your brain was quietly building your identity. These early experiences create pathways in your brain that become the default settings for your adult life. Most people are still running on programming installed when they were children. The criticism from a fourth grade teacher, the rejection from middle school friends, the moments when you felt not good enough, these experiences don't simply disappear. They become burned into how you see yourself, creating limits that no longer serve you but still determine what you think you can do. What makes this system particularly hidden is that your self-image isn't based on actual reality, it's based on how you interpreted and perceived things. Two people can go through identical situations yet form completely different identities because of how they processed those experiences. Your perceived limitations exist primarily in your mental architecture, not external reality. They're psychological constructs, not immutable facts. When identity and willpower clash, identity always wins. This explains why 80% of New Year's resolutions fail by February. People try to force new behaviors without first addressing the identity that works against them. You cannot consistently do things that go against who you believe you are. If you identify as someone who lacks discipline, no productivity system will save you. So if you see yourself as not a math person, no amount of tutoring will unlock your potential. If you believe you're just shy, you'll unconsciously avoid chances to speak, even when you consciously want to join in. Your actions will always line up with your identity regardless of your intentions. This explains the yo-yo effect in personal development. The neurological threshold for sustainable change is crossed only when identity shifts happen before a switch in behavior. Most approaches reverse this sequence, creating an internal conflict where your conscious intentions battle against your subconscious programming, a battle your subconscious nearly always wins due to its vastly superior processing power and automation. Think about David Goggins for a moment. He transformed from a 300-pound exterminator to an elite Navy SEAL and ultramarathon runner. But he didn't start by changing his habits. He changed his fundamental identity first. He decided he was no longer the person who accepted mediocrity. The habits followed that identity shift. Your brain doesn't process all available information. It filters reality through your existing beliefs. When you believe you're not creative enough, your brain systematically throws out evidence that contradicts this story while highlighting anything that confirms it. Your perception actually warps to protect your self-image, positive or not. This selective attention works through your brain's filtering system, the same mechanism that suddenly helps you notice every Tesla on the road after you've bought one. When your identity includes "I'm always overlooked for opportunities," your brain ensures you notice every instance this seems true, while filtering out anything that contradicts it. This perception you create operates below conscious awareness, creating what psychologists call blind spots. Not just metaphorical ones, but literal neurological blind spots in perception. Brain imaging studies reveal that information contradicting core identity beliefs receive measurably less neural processing, essentially rendering it invisible before reaching conscious awareness. You aren't choosing to ignore contrary evidence about who you are. Your mind physically prevents you from processing it in the first place. Most people focus exclusively on changing behaviors while their identity actively works against their efforts. They set ambitious fitness goals while still identifying as someone who hates exercise. They pursue financial success while maintaining a self-image as bad with money. They try to improve relationships while holding on to an identity as unlovable or difficult to be with. This clash between identity and behavior creates inner conflict that shows up as procrastination, self-sabotage, and unexplainable resistance. This internal conflict manifests as what behavioral economists call proximal abandonment, the mysterious tendency to sabotage progress precisely when success becomes imminent. Your limbic system interprets identity changes as existential threats, triggering the same neurological alarm systems activated by physical danger. The resulting stress hormones impair brain function, literally reducing your cognitive capacity to follow through at the moment you need it. Even success itself becomes threatening when it contradicts your established self-image. This explains imposter syndrome. When achievement conflicts with your core beliefs about your abilities, your brain experiences tension. It tries to resolve by either rejecting the success or attributing it to luck rather than skill. Your self-image will fight to preserve itself, even at the cost of what you consciously want. Your brain needs consistent proof that you're becoming someone new. Each small action aligned with your desired identity creates evidence that gradually overrides your existing self-image. Start by clearly stating exactly who you're becoming, not what you'll achieve, but who you'll be. Rather than "I want to write a book," establish "I am a disciplined writer who creates daily." Instead of "I want to be more confident," embody "I am someone who speaks with conviction and takes calculated risks." Research demonstrates that identity formation follows the principle of neurons that fire together, wire together. Each action creates not just psychological evidence, but physical restructuring of your mind. The key variable isn't the magnitude of actions, but their consistency. 5 minutes of daily writing strengthens pathways in the mind more effectively than a single 8-hour writing marathon. Let that sink in. It's not the intensity of your actions that rewires your mind. It's the consistency. This explains why identity emerges from frequent micro-behaviors rather than occasional grand gestures. Extrapolate this law to all facets of your life. The most powerful identity shifts happen when you deliberately act in ways your old self would find impossible. When you do what the old you would never do, you create undeniable evidence that you're becoming someone new. These pattern breaks force your brain to update its operating system with new possibilities. Understanding the complete identity cycle reveals how transformation actually works. Self-image dictates beliefs. Beliefs determine actions. Actions create results, and results reinforce self-image. This loop can either trap you or free you depending on whether you step in consciously to change it. Breaking this loop requires strategic intervention at multiple points. Visualization and positive self-talk reshape your beliefs. Deliberate action creates new results. Intentional reflection reinterprets these results as evidence of your emerging identity. When systematically applied, these interventions don't just change what you do, they change who you are. Your environment also strongly reinforces or challenges your self-image. Surrounding yourself with people who already embody your desired identity speeds up transformation. Their presence normalizes the behaviors you're adopting and provides continuous evidence that your aspirations are achievable. Conversely, staying in environments that reinforce your old identity creates unnecessary resistance. One major thing to note, all of the consistency you build will eventually lead to a breakthrough. Peak experiences create what neurologists call quantum change, which is rapid identity reconstruction through intensity rather than repetition. These transformative moments trigger a neurochemical cascade that dramatically enhances neuroplasticity, creating a brief window where identity structures become increasingly changeable. This neurological state enables months or years of identity development to be compressed into hours or days. Think about that for a moment. Months of inner work compressed into hours if the right window opens. This explains why profound challenges like wilderness survival programs, psychedelic therapy under clinical supervision, or complete environmental changes can catalyze transformations that would otherwise take years of incremental effort. When James Cameron took his first solo deep-sea dive, he emerged with not just footage, but a fundamentally altered sense of his capabilities. One experience rewrote decades of self-imposed limitations. Your self-image doesn't just influence what you do, it actually shapes what your brain thinks is possible. Your mind tries to save energy by sticking to what feels familiar. So if you see yourself a certain way, your brain will filter everything to match that version of you. That's why real change doesn't start with doing more. It starts with seeing yourself differently. The moment your identity shifts, your capacity expands. Suddenly, new thoughts, new actions, and new results become possible, because you've opened up the mental space to access them. Here's the truth. The person you are today is just one version of who you could be. There are thousands of other versions already inside you. And every small decision you make today pulls you closer to one of them. So, here's a challenge. Before you leave this video, take 30 seconds, take a note of who you are right now, then write one sentence about the person you're becoming. This tiny action will begin to shift your mind in the right direction. And if you're ready to go even deeper, in the next video we'll talk about something a bit controversial, how you have to be a bad person to get the things you truly want. It's not what you think. Subscribe now so you don't miss it.